I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Governor, we have assembled here today all the potential candidates for judicial office in the 10th Judicial District. And they're very glad you could be here with them. We do have two people in particular who are very happy today, and I'd like to introduce them first, even though we're going to go out of order a little bit and introduce the rest of our guests later after the program. I would like to recognize Mike Morgan and Robert Rader, our two newest judicial district court judges. Not only are they very happy, but I think the other district court judges are happy now to have a full complement of judges in our district. Without further ado, I'd like to turn the program over to Sid Aldridge, our president-elect.
Thank you, John, and welcome this afternoon. This is an overflow crowd, and it's just great to see everyone here for what is a very important and very meaningful meeting of the Bar Association. We're here today because we care very much about our children and about our schools and about our communities. And without saying more, I'm going to turn it over to Sally Shearer, the chairman of our Public Service Committee, to tell you about our program today. Thanks.
First, I'm really not the chair, I'm a co-chair. Margaret Putnam is also a co-chair. And we have a very active and wonderful committee that has done and will continue to do an awful lot of work. And those of you who want to join us are more than welcome to. If you just let any of us know that you are willing. In fact, those of you who are on the committee, would you please stand up, because they will be, to use a pun, bugging you today. Here in April probably have some idea about this project because we talked about it then. The Wake County Bar Board approved this playground partnership as our project for this year with the hope that it will become and will be a model community project to show other organizations that they can become involved and help make a difference in the community. We specifically chose the playground and the one at Bug Elementary in particular, because we were concerned about children and about violence in their lives, both in and out of school, and we wanted to do something that could help show children that there are other ways to solve problems, there are other ways to work together, and we wanted to try to inspire other organizations to get involved in their community in ways they wanted. This partnership is involving not only the bar, us, and the school administration, the school PTA, the Wake County Parks and Recreation, and the ultimate school administration. But we also hope that people in the community, business people, will be involved, and the children have already become involved. They're the ones who chose this title, the Bug Den, for their playground. This school was chosen because there are 500 students, or more than 500 students there. The racial mix is 50% majority and 50% minority. The school has, in addition to a regular kindergarten through 5th grade, students who are identified as learning disabled, trainable, mentally handicapped, and severely and profoundly handicapped. They have both before and after school programs. So it's our hope that a whole host of children will be reached who live in the community as well as who come to school there. This particular school has a totally inadequate playground. There are several pieces of wooden furniture, furnishings that are old and don't even meet code, much less the needs of a handicapped population. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of money to raise. We are attempting to get a matching grant, and we hope that we can get your help in our endeavor. And here to also help encourage you are some of the members of the Bug family, the principal, and if they would stand, Mr. Furtado, And PTA members, Alan Bryan, Debbie Hostetter, and Robin Capuano. Oh, and sorry, Paula Green also. We're pleased to have you here, and thank you. One of the reasons this school was chosen was because of the incredible enthusiasm of the PTA in this school. So I hope you will welcome them and help them. Thank you.
I feel a little bit like the PA announcer at a ball game. You go over to the Dean Dome and 22,000 people there, and the announcer says, and the coach of the Tar Heels, Dean Smith. Well, there's not a person in that Coliseum that doesn't know that Dean Smith is the coach of the Tar Heels. And I'm sort of in the same position today because there's not a person in this room that doesn't know about our Governor Jim Hunt and the fine leadership that he's given us now into his third term. But the reason we're here today is because, Governor, this Bar Association cares very much about its children, its schools, and its communities. And Governor, it's appropriate and fitting that you would be here because you also care very much about our children, our schools, and our neighborhoods and communities. And you've not only cared, but you've put that caring into action. And let me just tell you some of the ways that our governor has put that caring into action. He has founded in his first term the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics, the nation's first state-supported residential high school for students with talent and interest in science and mathematics. He's helped establish the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching, a year-round program of seminars to improve teaching in public schools. He's been instrumental in the founding of the primary reading program, which has placed teachers' aides in all the K-3 classrooms. In 1987, he founded, and I might add still chairs, the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, which is working to raise teaching standards across the country. And in 1984, I know he's proud to say that he received the prestigious James B. Conant Award for contribution to educational process. Since starting his third term, Governor Hunt has established the Educational Standards and Accountability Commission, which is working to make fundamental changes in North Carolina schools by setting rigorous new standards for high school graduates. And his Smart Start initiative will provide quality daycare and health care for every child in North Carolina. Governor Hunt has put caring into action, and that's what we're here to do today, is to put the caring that this Bar Association has for its children, its schools, and its communities in action. And Governor, we hope that you're going to give us some incentive and show us how to do that, because we're ready to get started. Thank you very much, Governor. Governor Hunt.
Mr. President, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I am really pleased to be here with all of you. It was kind of natural for me to head back out this way to a building right next to where I practiced law here for many good years with Pointer and Spruill, and at a time when I was a member of this Bar Association, which I was very proudly. And I still identify with you. I want to say that I was kind of curious to come out here and see who goes to a Bar Association meeting in the summertime. Frankly, relieved to see that there were several of you. I didn't know if anybody would be here or not today. But I am very impressed, Lucius, that we have this number here. I've seen a lot of good friends as I walked in, and I only got across part of the room, but I'm glad to see my friend Jim Fuller, who I think very highly of. You've recognized our new district judges, Mr. President, and I am very proud of them. Mike and Robert are both going to be, I think, superb judges in a county that has good district judges, and I know you've needed their help for quite a while. I must also acknowledge the presence of members of our Supreme Court, who are my good friends, and our Court of Appeals and Superior and District Courts. and also one of the best DAs in North Carolina, Colin Willoughby. I had the chance to appoint him one time. I must say that that was my opportunity. Since then, the people have elected him several times, and I really appreciate his leadership, his help in the crime session that we had in the spring, and so on. And I also want to acknowledge the educators who are here. It's good for lawyers and educators to be together, but I really appreciate the leadership of Mr. Fatata and the PTA, and I really think that Bug Elementary School, with the help of this bar association, could really see some great things ahead. I'm going to talk a little more about that in just a minute. One of the reasons I'm here today is because of what you're doing. You know, I get invited to speak to a lot of bar associations, and I don't get to go very often. In fact, this is the first one I've been to. But this project that you all have undertaken, I think, is a wonderful one. I was reading the other day that members of the bar down in Mecklenburg County are involved in closing down crack houses. That's good. Frankly, I'd rather be involved in building up schools. That's even better. And that's what you're doing. And I would encourage every one of you, I know you're busy, you're all these big important things that you're doing in your practice, but I would encourage you to really be personally involved and interested and excited about this project that your bar association is doing. Because of you, the children at Bug Elementary and the children in the neighborhood right around it, you know how school sort of serves the neighborhood, are going to have a safe place to play in a neighborhood where that's important. Most of us don't live in communities where it's important to have a safe place to play, but a lot of our children do. Because of you, the children with disabilities who attend that school are now going to have equipment to play on that's accessible to them. They're going to be able to play with the other children because of what you're doing in this project. Because of you, those children, all of them, are going to be able to build up their bodies and their minds, and you know, it's not just one or the other. For a long time we thought it's either intellectual or it's physical or spiritual. The truth is, it's all together. That's what growing's about, learning and developing. And the kids are going to have a chance to do that. They're going to laugh and play together and know each other better, be better friends, and come near making it during their lives. Because of you, another link's going to be formed between this school and the larger community. And frankly, you're going to learn a lot from being involved in it. All of us, I think, worry a good bit about our society. I had a visit this morning in the Capitol. My very fine legal counsel, Brad Wilson, was there with me, by leaders of victims organizations in this state. And I want to say to you that we have not nearly begun to give the victims the kind of attention and help and caring that they ought to have. They were frankly there to talk to me about a number of things, including a proposed constitutional amendment about victims' rights, which I am open to. Obviously, if we can do it by statute and by regulation and procedures and all of that, that's a better approach. But we've got to do that job. But I was just thinking about, you know, we think about these terrible crimes, and you know where I stand on those issues and how hard we pushed. But the truth is, if we focus on the children enough, we avoid those things in the first place. That is so much better a way to go. And children today need all the help we can give them. All of our children do. From the families that we may say are the most advantaged, to to the families where mother and father are both working all day long, some of them long days, to single parent families and kids who live in situations that are really tough, perhaps doing a lot better than we would have been doing in the same situation. Kids need that help. We got to get kids ready for this really tough, competitive world that we live in today. You mentioned the standards, raising the standards in our schools, Sydney, that we're involved in today, and I'm proud to have Dr. Tom Houlihan here, who's my senior education advisor. We're going to be raising standards in schools. We will never get to where we need to go with a truly world competitive workforce. And that's the only measure today, folks, is world competition. About 70% of what we buy, the services we use, are in world competition. That doesn't mean 70% of them come in, but they're competing with some product or service that is available from outside of our borders. And so kids have got to get ready for that. We've got to raise the standards in our schools, and we're about that business. By the year 2000, we're going to have these higher, more rigorous standards. We're going to require our students to meet those standards in order to graduate from our public schools. It's a terribly challenging task. I want you to know about it. You'll be reading more about it as we go along. In fact, this fall, I hope we can go out and get a great array of our citizens to speak to those, what those standards ought to be. But the people have got to be involved in helping us with these things. We can't transform our school just with these teachers and administrators being involved. We've got to have the PTA. We've got to have the citizens. We've got to have the parents. We've all got to pitch into it. And let me tell you this. We can make public schools work in North Carolina. If we get enough parent input, if we get enough organizations like this one who take on special projects and really put their time and their efforts into it, folks, we can make a change. We can change those schools. I can take you to schools that are working for virtually every kid in them. As I said, they can't do it in a vacuum. I guess the first responsibility all of us have is to our own children. Most of you are young lawyers. I'm delighted to see that. You've got kids in school. I have grandchildren in school now. By the way, you're just as interested. Matter of fact, it's about all I could do this morning when my wife and I were out doing our early walking. She was of a mind to call the superintendent back home to see who our grandchildren are going to have as teachers. Hopefully not try to exert any influence. I'll check and see when I get home tonight to imagine. But folks, we can change it. We've got some wonderful teachers. You mentioned that I helped organize with the Carnegie Corporation of New York, and I chair the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. We've got some great teachers. We've got a lot of good teachers. And those that aren't, many times can be made better. We got to give them support. We've got to say that those public schools are a public enterprise in this democracy and our future depends on them. And we're going to help make them work. A lot of kids take a lot of attention, a lot of extra help. A lot of it's got to be one-on-one, just like your own children do. They're different. They respond in different ways. You got to love them and care about them. They got to know it. You got to involve them in interesting, exciting things that lead to a real future for them. They got to believe that. There's so many children today who don't really think there's anything for them out there. I can tell you, again, another person I talked to this morning is a gentleman who's been doing work with the NAACP on the national level. He's been working on helping prisoners move from prison out into communities and into jobs. It's a major new initiative I want us to undertake in North Carolina. I want to get the Employment Security Commission involved in it. I want to get prison ministries involved and chambers of commerce and citizens and churches and all kinds of caring people. But he was talking to me about what it's like today with so many of these prisoners who never held a job. They're going to be coming out of prison, going to get a job, and they've never had a job in their lives. That's because of what their background was like, certainly in part. But this organization, I know, has been involved. I'm really proud of what you've done. I did some pro bono work myself in my law firm here in Raleigh. I know about this organization's involvement in free legal clinics and seminars. I'm proud of that. I know that 2 years ago you invested time and talents and treasure in building a Habitat for Humanity home. And I think about 50 or so of those have been built in Raleigh by now. And I participated in a couple of them, a little bit. You've been there, you've done that, you've done some of that. Now with this project, taking on this project in a school that you can get your arms around, you can go there and see it, I think you're setting a new benchmark for the rest of the state. I think you're showing others that a bar association, in addition to its professional activities and improvement, can really be a force. And we lawyers need to do a lot more of this, folks. I don't have to tell you how lawyers are perceived in our society. Not all of that is fair or accurate, but it's there. Now, we've got a lot of things to correct, as every profession has. But this is the kind of thing we can do. This is the kind of thing that people will see and appreciate. But now let me say to you, you can't just do it with groups. You know, I guess this is the most important thing I want to say to all of you today. Groups are great. This is a very good one. But I want to challenge all of you here today individually to make a commitment to our children and to our future. In the crime session in the spring, I pushed for toughening a lot of laws, as you know, and those things passed. We put funds into building a lot more prisons, including boot camps and prison work farms, and those things passed. And you're going to see them coming online very regularly now for the next several years. And you got to do that. But folks, I want to tell you, the most important thing that we can do to make ourselves safe and for our own children to have a good future is to prevent crime in the first place. That's what really makes sense. And that's what will really work. Because if we don't do that, we're going to keep building those prisons. And we have just started. If you don't believe you can put a lot of money into prisons, go to Florida. Go to Texas. Go to California. There is a better way, and we've got to find it. So in the crime session, the things that my heart was in the most were the preventive things. And one of those was a program we call SOS. I started out calling it Save Our Students. Some call it Support Our Students. It's built on the belief that kids who live in tough situations, homes that aren't helping them in the way that they need, communities that may literally be dangerous, certainly not supportive and inspiring and helping, those kids really need to have a lot of extra help. And then one of the best things, you can do a lot of things. You've got midnight basketball leagues, all kinds of things that you've heard about. One of the best things we can do is to find those children in those communities. And there are a lot of kids in a lot of communities who have these needs, but some of them are concentrated. And provide for them in the afternoon, after school, from 3 to 6 or 3 to 7, a safe place to be, a place where they can do interesting things, where they can get help with their homework, which I saw all the kids getting at a Boys and Girls Club in Greenville, North Carolina a few months ago. 450 of them getting at least an hour's help with homework, the first thing they did when they came after school. perhaps using the computers. We paid for those computers in schools. Why shouldn't kids be using them in the afternoon? Kids who can't afford to have them in their own homes. But they're sitting there, and we paid for them, and they don't last too long anyhow. Being involved in activities. How many of you or your spouses are taking the kids to clubs and teams and everything else almost around the clock? Kids I'm talking about don't get any of that, folks. They're not a member of a Boy Scout troop. They aren't involved on teams. They don't have that sense of fun and excitement and play and competition and good coaches that care about them and teach them those lessons, some of which are tough. Many of us have played competitive sports, and I will always be indebted to my high school coach, for example, who happened to be also a great history teacher, but more than that, a marvelous human being. Kids need that help. And the kind of a program we have in mind in SOS is something that will provide that for hundreds and thousands of kids across this state. Now, we're going to begin that program in Raleigh, North Carolina this fall. I'm going to volunteer in it for some time, one afternoon every week. I want to challenge you to do the same thing. I know you're busy. I know about those timesheets. Marvin Musselwhite used to make me keep them. And I know about those high fees that some of you charge. I never did that, of course. You're important, and you're busy. But I don't believe you're any busier than I am. Now, I'm going to do that. I want to encourage you to do it. I want to tell you something. And I did it before, 8 years as governor, working in other programs, helping kids learn to read, working in math remedial labs, and so on. If you'll get out there and help these kids, it will be one of the great experiences in your own personal life. And you'll find that we can change things. We do it kid by kid, day by day, year by year. That's the way we're going to change America, folks. We're not going to do it in Washington. Yeah, I want them to have the right policies up there. We're not going to do it in the legislature of this state. Sure, I want the right laws passed and the budget done right. We're going to have to do it in our communities. And we can do it. Look at all of us in this room. What part of the total bar do we have? A tenth today or something like that? Maybe 20%? Most of the lawyers in this town care. They really do. Think of all the people in these churches and synagogues in this city. And they all care. They really want to help. But we got to get out and do it now. We got to put our money where our mouth is, or our time, our persons, where our mouth is. And you can't just do it with money. I want to say that to you. I believe that citizenship ought to involve, yes, paying your taxes. Yes, giving to the United Way. All that's money. Every good citizen ought to also give part of their own time, themselves. And the best place you can give it is to kids, who you can change, who you can build, who you can mold, who you can make into good citizens, who can help us all. Now, with SOS and programs like it, we're going to also be starting family resource centers. I hope Smart Start's going to begin in this county this year. With these kinds of efforts, I want to tell you folks, we can literally change this city. With our SOS programs, once we get enough into effect, and Speaker Dan Blue's been a great champion of this and is my colleague on it, we can literally find, over time, we won't do this overnight, we can literally find every youngster in this city who doesn't have that help, encouragement, love, all of that our children have. We can find them all. We can get them involved in these kinds of programs. We can reach them. We can connect with them. We can get them interested. We can show them a future. We can change them. Every one of them. But it's going to take a lot of us to do that. What I'm saying to you is you don't have to leave it up to government. I know government isn't working very well in a lot of ways, but we the people can work. Build on that caring and love and belief in each other that our country and our state was built on. So I want to challenge you today. I'm talking to every heart, every single person here. I'd like to see you out there in this SOS program or in another kind of program. There are all kinds of things we can do. I care about SOS because I know there are only so many kids out there who are in these tough situations, who are headed perhaps toward a life of crime and all kinds of bad things. There are only so many of them. We can find every one of them early on and change it if we will. And I want to ask you all to help with this. I don't mean to be talking against groups because I like to see this group encourage this kind of activity, Sid. And I challenge you today to do it. Join me. By the way, who knows, I might not get to know you out there in one of these schools and make one of you a judge one of these times. Not a bad way to get to know the governor. But I'm very serious, folks. I want to tell you, I've served as governor, I guess, longer than anybody in the history of this state. And, you know, sometimes when you stay in something for a while or you're back into it, maybe you begin to get a little jaded and maybe you lose your optimism and your belief about what the future can be. I want to tell you, I've got more optimism and faith and confidence today about what we can do in this state than I've ever had in my life. That's because I know our people. I know how they feel. I know how they care. I know what they can do at their best. And so I would ask you to help us with this. This Bar Association is doing a great thing as you build the Bug Den. I shall look forward to going and to visiting it personally. Since Dr. Bug was the doctor who delivered my brother when he was born here many years ago, I ought to go to that school. And I hope that all the rest of you will do the same. Let's make that the finest playground in the city of Raleigh and maybe in the state. Then let's get involved in other things. Let's find all of these kids. Let's determine that we are going to make the future in this city and this state. And then I would say this country, what it can and ought to be. I believe we can do it. And I commend you for your efforts to that end. Thank you very much.
Governor, we certainly appreciate you being here to help us kick off our campaign for what we call the Wake County Bar Foundation Partnership for Children. We start today. Our campaign will conclude at our October the 4th meeting when we will present our final report of the tally as to how we do. Our fundraising coordinators, Richard Moore and Walter Brock, have established a hierarchy that consists of volunteers who will be contacting each and every member of our Bar Association within the next few weeks. Before I get into the specifics of what our fundraising efforts would be, I would like to talk for just a minute about why we are doing this. As the Governor mentioned, attorneys are in the forefront of providing assistance to the communities in which we live, both through pro bono activities and through volunteering to represent nonprofit associations and to advise the nonprofit groups in our communities. Governor, it's been my privilege and one of the perks of my job to listen to people like you who have set a personal example for those of us to follow. I think of what you've done in your volunteer efforts personally, and you're going to volunteer for Save Our Students. President Friday spoke to us last year about his efforts, and he has gotten involved in literacy programs and in personally helping to feed the homeless. And I also think of two former presidents of this association who recently passed away, Charles Poe and Clyde Douglas, whose lives were an example of volunteering efforts both in professional activities and in personal activities. And it is important, as the governor has stated. But as he also noted, it is very important for us to act as a group of attorneys, to act as an association. And that reminds me of a message that Don Cowan gave to us when Don came and spoke last year as president of the North Carolina Bar Association. One of the programs of which he was most proud was the work of the Council on the Status of Minorities and Women in the Profession. And Don said that was not set up because it was the politically correct thing to do. It was established because it was the right thing to do. And getting involved in our communities is simply the right thing to do. And building this playground for these children and for this community is simply the right thing to do. And it's something that we should do as an association for the reasons the governor had stated. As he noted, the Habitat for Humanity project was our classic example of working together as an association. This provides us with yet another opportunity to help children, as Sally mentioned, who may be a little more disadvantaged than our own children. And by working together to provide a playground for these children, we can accomplish a great deal not only for them, but for us as well. It provides us with an opportunity to work together with the PTA, with the school, and also with the Wake County Parks and Recreation Department to establish a first-class paid playground. The specifics are, we hope to raise $40,000 through our contributions and through grants to build the playground. If we raise more, we can do more. How are we going to raise the $40,000? This is how we're going to do it. You see baskets on your table. What I'd like you to do is take out your checkbook, just like I'm doing right now, and make it, today is August the 9th. I want you to make out a check to the Wake County Bar Foundation. That makes it deductible. We would like a minimum of $50 from every member of the Wake County Bar Association. This is the only thing that's gone down in 2 years. For Habitat, it was $100. 2 years later, it's only $50. You can do it now and avoid being contacted or maybe even harassed at a later date. On the check, we'd like you to put the name of your firm so that you can receive credit for this contribution. I'd like to announce that the members of the Board of Directors have unanimously contributed to this project. If you write your check, we're going to take a minute to do it right now. Pull out your checkbooks and do it. Just, I'm doing it right now. Wake County Bar Foundation. We're asking for a contribution of at least $50. You can do more, as Sid Aldridge's firm have. The firm of Merriman, Nichols, and Crampton has 100% participation, all of whom have given more than the minimum. We hope to use that as an example. We hope that you'll put your checks in the basket, and we hope that this will be a worthwhile project for the students, for the children, for the PTA, for the community, and for all of us. I'd like to ask Alan Head now to come forward and to introduce the guests.
Thank you, John. Introduction of guests, those who've checked in at the head table. Bob Page has a guest.
I'm sort of writing the check out right now.
Keep writing, Bob.
My guest is Jeff Bash, who has joined the law firm of Chris Davis, Page, Curtin, and Nichols as our office administrator.
Welcome. Debbie Hildebrand has a guest. Where's Debbie? Okay. Miller Sigmund has a guest.
Thank you, Alan. I'm glad to have as my guest today Sandra Panico. Sandra's an attorney with the Citizens Rights Division of the Attorney General's Office.
Walter Brock has a guest.
Thank you, Alan. I'm pleased to introduce to the bar one of our newest members. This is Dickie Wallia. Dickie has a very interesting background. He was born in Burma. His parents were from India. They now live in Dallas, Texas. He's a product of the Thomas Cooley Law School in Lansing, Michigan. He's now preparing to take the CPA exam, and he's practicing law, specializing in business and tax.
Welcome. Dick Taylor has a guest.
My guest is Audrey Jordan, who is a clerk this summer in legal services at North Carolina Central Office. Audrey is a graduate of Hampton and is a rising third-year student at North Carolina Central.
Welcome. Jim Gale has 3 guests. Ron Dilthey has a special guest.
This is a very special guest. This is one of my best friends, my youngest daughter, Lauren Chase. She works in our office as a legal assistant and is a very strong voting Democrat. She wanted to come and see her governor.
Are there other guests that need to be introduced? Yes, in the back.
And I'm Jim Newman from Park Avenue. We have 2 guests I'd like to introduce that some associates with us this summer. First is Kevin Chignell, and second, Ann Waldo, and they are both going to be 3rd years at Chapel Hill, Michigan.
Great. Welcome. Are there others? Are there others? If not, one last announcement that John said that I could make at this time, and that is that it is time to get excited. The long-awaited move of the North Carolina Bar Association to the new Bar Center, as well as our local bar, the Wake County Bar in the 10th Judicial District, happens this week. The movers are coming. It's like the British. And they'll be there this Thursday and Friday. So next week there'll be a new phone number, a new address, but the same folks doing the same job, and you should be proud.
Musical chairs up here. All right, this is it. The couple last announcements. Our September meeting is on the 9th at Pullen Park. This is the family outing, picnic, etc. If you haven't been, this is so much fun. You bring your kids, you have a great time. If you don't have kids, you can borrow mine for the afternoon. But Pullen Park on September 9th, there's a map and everything in your bar flyer, but really it's a lot of fun, clowns and so forth. So a great time. October meeting, I can't remember the date, 4th, Janice Cole, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, recently appointed, or back in the spring, will be here to speak, and I know she's got an interesting message to bring for us. Any other announcements for the good of the association? If not, could we have just a moment of silence for 2 past presidents that have passed away this week, Clyde Douglas and Charles Poe? Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you at the picnic.